1 Corinthians chapter 7, lesson 7, part 1, corruption and questions in the church. Paul now answers questions posed in a letter to him from the Corinthians. There are several questions: marriage, unmarried believers, food sacrificed to idols, and spiritual gifts. Paul starts to address them in chapters 7:1 through 14:40. Marriage, 1 Corinthians 7:1 through 2. Now concerning the things about which you wrote to me, it is good for a man not to touch a woman, but because of sexual immoralities, let each man have his own wife, and let each woman have her own husband. And there is the aspect of submission. 1 Corinthians 7:3 through 4. Let the husband render to his wife the affection owed her, and likewise also the wife to her husband. The wife doesn't have authority over her own body, but the husband. Likewise also the husband doesn't have authority over his own body, but the wife. Husband to wife, wife to husband. See Ephesians 5:21 through 33. Don't forget to start with verse 21. We need to understand Paul's answer in context. There was a crisis going on in Corinth, verse 26. 1 Corinthians 7:5 through 6. Don't deprive one another, unless it is by consent for a season, that you may give yourselves to fasting and prayer, and may be together again, that Satan doesn't tempt you because of your lack of self-control. But this I say by way of concession, not of commandment. Paul said it was good not to marry. Paul's writing involved the ongoing situation at Corinth. Remember, it is also written, "It is not good that the man should be alone." Genesis 2:18. 1 Corinthians 7:8. But I say to the unmarried and to widows, it is good for them to remain even as I am. To live a celibate life requires a gift from God. Most do not seem to have that gift. 1 Corinthians 7:7. Yet I wish that all men were like me. However, each man has his own gift from God, one of this kind and another of that kind. So, even in the midst of the crisis, apart from the gift of celibacy, Paul said it was best to marry. But in a time of crisis, it is easier not to have a family. 1 Corinthians 7:9. But if they don't have self-control, let them marry, for it is better to marry than to burn. Paul affirms the Lord's command not to divorce, Matthew 5:32, 19:3-9, and Luke 16:8. 1 Corinthians 7:10. But to the married I command, not I, but the Lord, that the wife not leave her husband. If there is a separation, do not remarry, although reconciliation is a good outcome. 1 Corinthians 7:11. But if she departs, let her remain unmarried, or else be reconciled to her husband, and that the husband not leave his wife. Moses allowed divorce, but it was not that way from the beginning. Matthew 19:8. 1 Corinthians chapter 7, lesson 7, part 1, the end.